Welcome to Satsang. So wonderful to be together. We'll begin, as always, with a question that comes in advance from our audience joining us, our family joining us from all over the world on all of the different channels, and then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here may have. You can be first if you have one. Sometimes serving others can be so stressful and debilitating for me. I become overwhelmingly sad for some of the people I care for, seeing their suffering and their need. Is there a limit to how much we should do so that we don't burn out or give up entirely? When we anchor ourselves in that awareness that we are one with all, which is the awareness that leads us into service. That's why we serve. It's not about collecting good punya, karmic merits. It's not about getting bonus points. It's not about that. The real deep reason we serve is out of a deep experiential awareness that we are all one. That your hunger is my hunger. Your thirst is my thirst. Your pain is my pain. And so we serve. And through that service, our mind becomes purified. It's like what I was speaking about on the God. Yesadi spiritual practices. Whether it's our seated meditation, our japa, our yoga, our prayers, or our seva. We do them to purify the mind. Just like our puja is not about, Chalo, God has become happy. God needs our rice. God needs our ghee. God needs our flowers. In the same way, our seva is not actually about the people we serve. That's what you could call just run-of-the-mill volunteer work. Okay? Still good to do. You see a hungry person, feed them. Living in separation, no problem. They are hungry, you are not. They are poor, you are not. The mindset isn't exactly what it needs to be, but still, no problem, it's beautiful. It's what we call volunteer work or humanitarianism. It's that which we are doing. It's okay, let him go. No problem. He's good. Kids are meant to explore. So that which we do from that place of separation, that's what we call humanitarian work, charitable work, volunteerism. When it becomes seva, is when we actually are doing it from a place that it's not about them. It's not about those who have less and we who have more. Those who are in need and we who are serving them. That may put food in their stomach. It may put a roof over their heads. But it's not bringing me any closer to my spiritual truth. It's not bringing me closer to God realization, self-realization, enlightenment. Seva is about us having an opportunity through someone else. They've done us a favor on a karmic level. On the physical level, it looks like humne bahut badhiya kiya unke liye. We've given them a sandwich. We've given them a sweater. We've given them a school. But that's on the very material level. On the karmic level, they have given us the opportunity to purify our own minds and hearts through serving them. Karmically, they've agreed on some consciousness level to play the role of the one in need, so we could play the role of the one serving and have that deeper experience. So seva is actually about experiencing that oneness. It's not your hunger, it's my hunger. It's not your thirst, it's my thirst. Such that seva purifies our mind and our heart and becomes a deep spiritual practice. So when you're caught up in the suffering of the ones you're serving, it means you're still on that material level. Oh my God, the poor things. They're hungry, they're sick. The poor things. And my heart breaks because I see that. And here's the beautiful opportunity that we have spiritually, is to live on both levels, because spiritually we are consciousness. As Bhagavan Krishna explained in the Gita so beautifully, we're not born and die. We don't keep changing. That's the body. We are the ones that was never born, never die, never changes, this eternal spirit. And here we are in a human incarnation, touched and pained by others' pain. So as you serve, it's important to make sure that you are allowing yourself to serve on both levels. The human level is activated. Oh my God, the poor things, they are suffering. They're hungry. They're poor. But you need to go on a deeper level as well, which is to realize that they are no more poor than you are on any deep level rich at this particular intersection of time and space. In this particular act of the karmic drama, yeah, you can come, it's okay. In this particular act of the karmic drama, my role is one who has a lot. Their role may be one who has less. But not to get wrapped up in the roles. We're not here to get wrapped up in stories and drama and roles. We're here to live as the one who's aware of the role. When an actor puts on a costume, they don't forget that they're the actor. They don't lose themselves in the role. This is why so many actors, big actors, have 4 or 5 projects going on simultaneously. Filming for this, filming for that. It's not like they say, oh, I can't play the hero here. I'm already playing a villain these days. Villain over here, this costume, this makeup. Quick shower. Now I'm the hero. Hello. Hello. Thank you. You are playing this beautiful role with us. Thank you. You can have that. It's all yours. You want some water? Would you like some water? Funny? A little bit? playing this beautiful role of a helpless little child. So I get this joy of playing the role of the one who gets to give him water. It's not that he needs my water. I'm enjoying giving it much more than he's enjoying receiving it. Yeah, there you go. A little more? A little more? Huh? A little water? A little water? Okay, maybe not. Thank you. So when we serve, on one level, on the human level, it's beautiful for that heart to break when other people are suffering. It's what reminds us that we have, with this soul, we have a human heart. And the human heart connects to other human hearts. And when other human hearts are hurting, our human heart feels it. And that's beautiful. It's what turns us all, like everybody, there's something so beautiful about this human experience. And on that deeper level, as we enjoy playing on the material level of I am grown up, you are baby. I am the lap, you are the one that sits in the lap. I am the one who feeds, you are the one who needs the food. Along with that, we want to not get lost in it and keep remembering, oh yeah, actually we're soul. And the reason that this is so critical for those of us engaged in service all the time is otherwise it is overwhelming. There are way more hungry people than any of us can feed. There are way more poor people than any of us can possibly uplift, no matter how many NGOs you form or support. There's way more women being harmed in their own homes, children being harmed in their own homes, right now, than any of us can do anything about. And so it becomes incredibly overwhelming and depressing. And that's why we remember, right, this is all actually my spiritual practice. And on the spiritual level, they're not suffering any more than I am this body. We're all here playing our roles. And ultimately, we're all that soul that cannot be burned by fire or cut with knives or wet by the wind. No, wet with water, dried by the wind. So if I can't be cut by knives or burned by fire, then I'm not really suffering from hunger on that level of soul. And that doesn't mean we don't serve them. We do, because we are humans. And our dharma is as humans. Our karmic package is as humans. So we fulfill that dharma through our karmic package as humans, loving our human heart that breaks, that melts, that loves, that suffers with those who are suffering, while we simultaneously keep dropping in to that place where there is no you and there is no me. There's no one who's hungry, there's no one who's feeding. There's no one who's sick, there's no one who's healing. It's just God. And it's just the perfection of divinity. And to be able to seamlessly move through both as we serve with love, with commitment, with duty, And then we drop back in. We're the role, we're the actor. We're the role, we're the actor. We're the role, we're the actor. And that's what makes seva a spiritual practice. Whereas humanitarianism stays on that level of me serving you. So on this level, it's still great. Do it. But give yourself the possibility of shifting from being just a humanitarian or a volunteer to actually being in seva. So it really becomes that spiritual practice, and what you'll find is that you don't get nearly as overwhelmed because you're not so wrapped up in the story. And you're much more anchored in that perfection of the divine. And then you allow your human heart to melt and to break and to love and to serve. And then you drop back. And that's what seva looks like as a spiritual practice. And lastly, as the last line of the question asked, is there a limit? No, of course there isn't a limit. Of course there's not a limit. Think about a tube, right? Any kind of tube. It could be a metal tube, it could be a rubber tube, it could be the inside of your toilet paper when the toilet paper is gone, the cardboard tube. Think about any kind of tube. Now imagine that you're pouring water through that tube. Well, the water is just going to pour through it, right? Is there any limit to the amount of water you can pour through that tube? Like, is the tube ever going to say enough?
It can just go on and on.
It's just going to go on and on, exactly. It's a channel. It's a channel. It's like our blood vessels are channels. They're carrying the blood from the heart to the rest of the body. The only time there comes a problem in the channel is when it gets stuck, full of what we call plaque, right? When they say, lower your cholesterol, there's too much plaque. Good night, sweetie. Mwah. We love you. Come and play tomorrow. The only time there's a problem is when there's that plaque that gets on the walls of the channel. And then the blood can't flow. Right? We call it plaque or cholesterol. You end up needing a bypass surgery when it gets so full that the blood can't go. Well, that's what happens in our life. We're ultimately supposed to be just these channels of divine grace. These channels of God's will, God's flow on earth. But when we get so stuck with ego, with desires, with fears, with our identification, then that flow can't come through. And that's when we start to feel like I'm full, I'm overwhelmed. It's overflowing. Well, it's overflowing because the channel is stopped up. So the answer is not how to limit the blood that is flowing through, or how to limit the grace or God's will that is flowing through, but rather how to just clean the channel so that it just flows. And that's what our spiritual practice is about. And so we meditate and we pray and we do japa, such that when we serve in seva, it can just flow and flow and flow.
That part of the question, Sadhviji, is it that
Apko, he's going to just give you a mic. And then if anyone else has any questions, we'll take those. First, Danushji, and then you.
I'm just saying, in that same question, there was an important element to that question which says, how much should one do till you burn out, or what should be the extent? So we could just reflect on that. Because I thought that was a very important element of that question.
Burnout. So, Pujya Swamiji gives a beautiful, beautiful teaching that I'm going to try to do in the beautiful Hindi that he does, because it works much better in Hindi than in English. But then I'll give it in English for those joining us who don't speak Hindi, and in case I miss the nuance there. He says, "Dusron ke liye jalna hai." We should burn for others, lekin dusron se nahi jalna chahiye. Burnout happens जब दूसरों से जलते हैं, not जब दूसरों के लिए जलते हैं. The distinction is when we really are allowing ourselves to burn for others, then the fire is eternal. It keeps burning, it lights us, and it lights the world. But when we burn from others, anger, jealousy, competition, resentment, greed, envy, all of these things that cause us to burn inside from others, that's the stuff that burns us out. It's not the actual service that burns us out. It's the mental state that comes along with it. And this is what we have to work with. Now, obviously, we have physical bodies. We have physical brains. Both of them need to be tended to. We need enough sleep. We need proper food. We need exercise. We need fresh air. We need things that calm our mind, stimulate our mind, inspire our mind. We need our spiritual practices. We need to spend time in nature with those we love. So those things must be attended to. Those things must be attended to. The physical body, the physical brain. I purposely didn't say our emotions, because emotions on this level are really a product of the physical brain. We give them a lot of weight. Oh my God, my emotions. But what we know neurologically actually is how much of what we call our emotional state is based on the chemistry in our brain. Get someone drunk, they're like a different person. Right? People take drugs, they're like different people. Now, what has alcohol and drugs done? It's just changed the chemistry of their brain. And yet suddenly, they're like completely different people. We know that if you stimulate certain areas of people's brain, you can evoke different emotional states. We've done it. So the physical body, the physical brain absolutely must be taken care of. But then beyond that, burnout happens mentally. It can happen physically. That's where we have to take care of the physical body. That's why the brain needs fresh air. It needs sunshine. We need to be in nature. We need to anchor deeply spiritually. But when we burn out on an emotional level, it's not because of the work itself, it's because of how we are thinking about the work or how we're thinking about our life in general. And that's where it all becomes a matter of our mindset and how we think. And that's where it becomes all about purifying our minds. Otherwise, we're doing it, but the minds are like, why me? This is so unfair. Why are they getting all the special privileges over there and I'm not getting any privileges? Why do I do the work and he gets all of the credit? Why does he get this? She gets that. I'm stuck with this. No one appreciates me. I do everything and still they're mean to me. This is that which steals the peace of people across the world. You could come up with 6, 7, 10 sentences, translate them into every language, and you've got that which is causing so much of what is wrong in our minds these days. Why me? Or the flip side, why not me? Why them? Why this? Why not that? Why are they special? I'm not this. They have this. I don't have it. I want that. All of this idea is actually what pollutes all of our minds. It creates separation in our lives. It pollutes, literally, whatever we do. That which could be joyful suddenly becomes tainted because of how I start to think about it. You take something so simple, the beautiful act of washing dishes. Right now, washing dishes can be a meditation. I mean, as far as physical experiences, you've got warm water, you've got suds, you've got running water. It can be really quite meditative. And yet, because it's usually seen as that which people don't like to do, those who end up doing dishes, there's always the sense of like, why me? It's not fair. Now you think, that's really interesting. 10 minutes, some nice warm sudsy water, the opportunity to just think, pray, do my japa, listen to music. But because it carries such emotional baggage, people have got all kinds of issues with it. Similarly, sweeping the floor. Unless you've got a bad back, it's really quite rhythmic. It's good for the body. But there's all of this aspect of like the sweepers as the lower ones. And so whether it's dishes, whether it's sweeping, whether it's work in an office, why do I have to do the filing and they get to do the interesting things? Why am I? We attach these labels to things that then impact us mentally, and then you get burnout. The burnout isn't from what I'm doing. As long as I'm taking care of my physical body, physical brain, the emotional burnout comes from how I think about what I'm doing, rather than actually what I'm doing. I'll tell you a true story about this. And then I didn't forget, you have a question. So, true story, this is 2012. The years leading up to that, I've been in India since 1996, and have had a beautiful, beautiful opportunity to do so much seva. Prior to 2012, we had been engaged for many years, from 2004, 5, 6, in this very, very intense tsunami relief work, back and forth from South India, a whole bunch. Then it was this finalization of the Encyclopedia of Hinduism. Finally, 2010, we had a few volumes ready. By 2011 or 12, it was finally done. 11 volumes. I had personally read every single word of every single volume, copy editing it, having this beautiful opportunity to be the managing editor. There were a lot of moments I didn't think it was such a beautiful opportunity, but 2012 was Pujya Swamiji's 60th birthday. For his 60th birthday, I had written his biography into this beautiful coffee table book. And we had thrown this massive event for his 60th birthday. We did it first 3 days of November. His birthday's in June, as we'll be celebrating next week. But that year I had decided to do it in November because, as you may have noticed, it's really hot in June. And I thought, okay, we're going to do a big event. Let's do it at a time when the weather is cooler. Yes. Event was perfect. Everything was great. Middle of November, I found myself, I couldn't drag myself out of bed in the morning. First, I thought I was just exhausted. I mean, it had been just years of kind of non-stop, super intense work. And I slept, and I slept, and I slept, and I slept. And then a good 7-10 days later, I mean, I'd been sleeping 9-10 hours a night. I'd just been sleeping and sleeping. And I realized I cannot possibly physically still be tired. But I couldn't motivate myself. I didn't have any energy. I didn't want to do anything. I was negative about everything. I mean, I just remember that whatever was brought to me, it was ugh. That was just sort of my general feeling at that time, was just, ugh. And Pujya Swamiji and I were headed to Tokyo in early of December of that year for an event. And then we had to be in California a few days after Tokyo. And he has some wonderful devotees who are based in Kentucky, but they've also got a house on the big island of Hawaii. And they had been telling him for years, please come, please come, please come. But anybody who knows Pujya Swamiji will not be surprised to know that he had not made time to go and visit Hawaii. We had 3-4 days in between the Tokyo and the California events. And geographically, Hawaii comes exactly in between them. And I said, can we please go just for a couple of days? They've been begging you to come. I really need a break. I'm burned out. This is how I thought about it. I just kept saying, I'm burned out, I'm burned out, I'm burned out. So he said, fine. So we flew from Tokyo to Hawaii. And we had, 2.5, 3 days, something like that there before we had to go to LA. So we arrive in the evening, go to sleep. The next morning, I wake up early. And then I decide, no need to get up. And I turned over and I went right back to sleep for another several hours. By the time I actually get out of bed, it's mid-morning. And I walk outside and Pujya Swamiji's sitting on the balcony. Not a balcony, sorry, a balcony small. This is more patio. Huge patio overlooking the Pacific Ocean. This gorgeous home, swimming pool just overlooking the entire Pacific Ocean. There's Maui in the distance. And he's had his breakfast, and he's sitting at a table and he's writing in one of his little notebooks. And I do pranam. And he says, "How did you sleep?" And I said, "I slept wonderfully." I said, how are you?" And he said, "I am wonderful." And he says, "I have planned where all of the toilets are going to go for the upcoming Kumbh Mela." January of 2013 was the Maha Kumbh in Prayagraj. And we had this very large clean Kumbh, green Kumbh initiative and camp there. He said, "See, I have planned where every toilet in the Kumbh Mela is going to go so that no sewage will go into Ganga." I was like, and he said, "Before breakfast, I planned all the toilets from Haridwar up to the whole Char Dham area. For all the pilgrims who go up to Char Dham, where all the toilets are going to be. And now since breakfast, I've planned all of the Kumbh Mela toilets." I couldn't even speak. I finally said, "Swamiji," I said, "you're on vacation." I said, you're sitting here, you're overlooking the Pacific Ocean, you're in Hawaii, and you're planning toilets? I said, why are you working, sitting here?" And he said to me, "This is your problem." He said, "For you it is work. This is why you burn out." He said, "For me it is life. It's a joy." He said, "I never get tired of breathing. I never burn out of breathing. Why would I burn out of serving?" He said, "It's not work. It's life. Like we breathe, we serve." He said, "The reason you are so burned out is that for you it's work. You think you're the doer. You've had to do this, you've done that, you've done this. Some has been fun, some has not been fun. But you've taken it like it's all you're the doer." He said, "This is your problem." And so that was my big personal lesson on burnout.
And since then, lots changed?
Since then, so much has changed, because at least what you end up with is clarity, insight. I mean, for me, it was suddenly like, oh my God, I've been looking at this whole thing wrong the entire time. I mean, I'd always loved to serve. I had loved it since the day I got here. I was always excited about serving. But yeah, it was work. And that was okay. I loved it. I loved my work. But the idea that this was life, and that it was supposed to happen just like the way you breathe. And that if you're burned out, it wasn't about too much of the work, it was about how you think about it.
That's good.
And so for me, it became whenever I started having issues in my seva. Prior to that, it was always issues in the seva, we'll address them in the seva. Too much work, frustrated this, address it in the work. Since then it became problems in the seva, address it in your meditation. The work's not the problem. The problem is the mind. And so it's not about changing the seva, it's about changing the way you're looking at it. And so that was my personal
Golden words.
lesson in...
Breathing doesn't burn you out.
Yes. Yeah, right. Breathing doesn't burn you out.
You breathe all the time.
Yes.
Take a mic.
I've come here all the way from Mumbai because a few years ago I'd met you on the steps of Parmarth Niketan, and you had told me you have any question, think about me and I will appear. And here you are and here I am. So thanks for that. My question is on what conversation we just had. The actor and the role, you said they are different, and you should differentiate them. And if you're not part of the story, right, what if you are part of the story? What if you, the seva that you're doing is for your loved one whom you're staying with, and you cannot get out of the story? How do you get out of that story?
Great.
Yes.
So I'll just repeat it since it didn't seem like his mic was working very well. He was saying, if the seva you're doing is, for example, for a loved one and it's in the house, and so you're in the story and you can't get out of the story, how do you get out? The story's in the mind. The story is not that which is happening here. We've all got a story here. Whether I get in my car and I drive every day to my work, whether my work is in my house, it's all a story for us. And I don't mean that in a belittling way. I don't mean that in a way to negate the significance of it. But when I say story, what I mean is we're here playing roles in this karmic drama. This is a stage. When we say Leela, right, the divine drama, this is all a role. Your role is as dutiful husband or son or brother, performing the seva in the house. That's your role. It's your story. Someone else's role and story is different. But we all get wrapped up in them. And I'll tell you something, even if your actual work doesn't come home with you, the story you tell yourself about it certainly does. So there isn't actually the escape from the story in our mind, regardless of where the work takes place. And this is where we recognize that, yeah, we have to serve. We have to serve. Outside the house, inside the house. That's our duty, it's our dharma. We all serve in different ways. But our collective dharma is to serve. When we speak about nimitta matram, I'm just an instrument. I'm a tool. That bhav, that nimitta matram bhav that is hailed and celebrated, is that bhav, that awareness, that feeling that I am just an instrument. So we all serve. The dilemma comes in disentangling the mind from the story. And one way to do that is typically when you're serving, especially if you're serving a physical being, is we identify with them as the role they are. So you are the sick one or the needy one I am serving. Needy spouse, needy parent, needy child. And then I am the dutiful child, parent, sibling. But instead, if as you're serving, if as you look in their eyes, you can simply see them as soul, as spirit, as divinity, and you're connecting with them on the role of that divinity in you, connecting with the divine in them, it's soul to soul mergence. It's not me serving you. You're sick, I'm healthy. You're weak, I'm strong. It's here we are. At this intersection of time and space, there you are in your costume of the one who is sick. Here I am in my costume of the one who is taking care of you. But it just, in the blink of an eye, when you look at the yugas, right? When we talk about yug-se, in the blink of an eye, I was the one weak, you were the one serving. Or someone else was weak and we were serving together. And in just this slight rotation, it's shifted. Like the earth rotates and we go night to day, or we go winter to spring to summer, just a slight shift of a rotation. Well, here we are in a karmic unfolding. In this particular unfolding, here we are playing these roles. I'm the husband, you're the wife. Isn't that fun? At a different blink of the eye, maybe we were two brothers. But here we are. And try as much as you can to see them as soul rather than as a role. And in the same way, see yourself as soul rather than the role. And so, as Pujya Swamiji told me, serve like you breathe. Here you are bathing. Here you are eating, here you are sleeping, here you are serving. It's all just, it's what you do. Here we're putting a spoonful of food in my mouth, here we're putting a spoonful of food in someone else's mouth. Here I'm bathing myself, here I'm changing someone else's diaper. And it's just an ever so slight shift on the most superficial, material, physical level. Oh, that's your mouth I'm putting the food in? Okay. Oh, really? That's your esophagus it's going down? So interesting. I thought it was mine. All right. Okay, here's some food for your esophagus. Just that very, very superficial level of material distinction. But you go any bit deeper. There's no my esophagus and your esophagus. We're soul. And so try as much as you can to just meet that person on that level. It'll help pull you out of the story. It'll also help pull them out of the story. Because they're also stuck in that story of themselves as the one needing this. And so it'll be doing a beautiful service and a beautiful blessing for both of you. And it'll enable that service to be seva and a spiritual practice rather than work. And it'll take the two of you much, much deeper in your connection to each other. Beautiful. Have a beautiful rest of your evenings. A beautiful morning and day for our family joining us from all over the world. And so much love to you all.